never seen a real rainbow. I still believe though. Gotta believe though. It hurts me when people are fighting. Different street sides. Words cut like sharp knives. But it doesn't have to be that way.
My name is G Smalls, and I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. And Black Enough, Man Enough is about my life from birth to 40 years old, and my journey through what it was like growing up as a biracial Black man. My mom is white, my dad is Black. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, in the Gullah Geechee culture, which is the strongest Black culture you could ever really be in. It's the first Black culture there is. And so that was a very unique experience for me, being the only mixed child of the neighborhood and around. So I talk about that experience and my relationship with my mom, and how I kind of carry a lot of rejection for the white side of myself, if you will, for a long time. So I take you through that journey. And I also take you through the journey of being a sexually fluid man, being attracted to women and men. And I take you from the beginning to currently where I am and what all those relationships are like, and how I discovered what I liked and owned who I was. And, I take you through my spiritual journey. And I believe it's, although there's some unique experiences that are unique to me, I believe the journey within itself, that, things that we all experience, the challenges in relationships, the trauma that we may experience as kids, the journey to self-acceptance, I believe, is going to be one that many people will be able to draw from and connect with. So in a nutshell, that's what Black Enough, Man Enough is. It's about me reaching to a point of living authentically.
Wow, perfect.
Yeah.
So my first question is, and I know it's all about you and your journey, but why a memoir? Did you see this as maybe something fictional? Did you see it as a short film? Like, what made you approach this in this way?
Gosh, that's a really good question. So first off, it was never my intention to write any books or anything like that. My husband and I, we've done a lot of work together. We still work together. We have a restaurant together now, but we used to also do a love and relationships talk show on YouTube called Love Works. And both of us are life and relationship coaches. And while we were on that journey, had planned to write a relationship book. Basically, a kind of self-help book on relationships, but also drawing from our own personal experiences and sharing those lessons. And so the way the book started was I was just giving a history of myself before meeting him, and he was doing the same. And as I started writing, it turned into Black Enough, Man Enough. And as destiny would have it, it was meant for me to write this memoir. And that was like maybe 5 years ago when that started. And here we are. So it really has been something that I've been honestly spiritually led to do. I think that my story is, I can't explain it, is meant to be shared. And the person that I am, I'm very, I'm one of those people who can't do small talk. Everything is a deep conversation.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
So with that comes vulnerability, I believe. And I've always been the type of person that I share a lot with the things obviously I'm comfortable with. Nobody shares things that they're uncomfortable with. That's always the hardest thing to share. But it's been a journey to get to share these things. But I just feel like this is what a part of my journey. All the things that I've done, I feel like this is by far the largest, most impactful thing that I will have ever put out there. And I just believe it. I really believe that's just destiny.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, this is a part of my purpose.
Wow. So aside from the book itself, like the journey of conceptualizing the actual memoir, where would you say that your journey of becoming aware of your intersections and aware of not feeling Black enough, not feeling man enough in so many ways, where did that begin in your life? And you can even tell us what chapter of the book we could find that.
So actually, the very first chapter, I talk about my earliest memory of not being Black enough. Now, I've always known that I was, I can never not remember being different. I mean, because like I said, where we're from, in Gullah Geechee culture, you're either Black And then you have white people, Black and white people, and in Gullah Geechee culture, most people are very dark skinned. You don't have very many biracial people in that culture. And so I've always kind of stood out. Nobody has never made it a secret that, I look different. Everybody was always pretty fascinated by my hair because my hair was all, soft and whatever was given at the time, that was different. So I've always thought it was different. But, in the first chapter, I actually talk about me auditioning for a role of a young Black boy. And by the end of that audition, I discovered that I wouldn't be Black enough, and that just kind of carried with me. Like I was never Black enough. But that was as early as six or seven. But also when it comes to the sexuality piece, though, I've always also known I was not like other boys, right? And it was more so because of my level of masculinity and femininity, more so than about my sexuality. I mean, I've always been who I was, and as far as my mannerisms and stuff are concerned, since I was younger, which I wasn't thinking about sex then, but I was different. And so I've always known I was not man enough because I was never boy enough. I was not as tough, I was a lot more sensitive. I don't. If I was completely straight, that could still be who I am. You know what I mean? I don't think that has anything to do with my level of attraction towards men or women, but that's just who I am. This is just who I am, and I as I've gotten older, or through that journey, you are taught how to be a boy, you are taught how to be a man, and how to carry yourself. And I believe gay or straight, bisexual, whatever the case may be, all boys are taught that, especially Black boys and Black men. We're taught to be really, really tough. So, I think we're all kind of, as men, a lot of our behaviors and the way we carry ourselves, I believe a large part of that is taught and not just us falling into who we are.
Very much so. Is there another book or like a favorite book from your childhood or your young adult years that has influenced your writing today?
Probably Elon Harris books, definitely. He was such a great storyteller. I like the way that he wrote. It always felt very personal. Just as if you were talking to someone, and I feel like that's what, like, my memoir is like that. It really is. It's telling you. It could be fiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not essay style. There's none of that. It's very story written, and if I had to be inspired by anyone, it would definitely be Elon Harris and even James Earl Hardy. Like, those are the guys that I read when I first started coming into the community. Like, those were the two books that I went to and that what I related to the most. And so they definitely, have an influence on the way I wrote my book.
Wow. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So also shout outs to your t-shirt. I love the logo.
Thank you.
Black and
Thank you. Yes.
So when writing such a memoir, like, I'm sure you had to do like a lot of digging. Like, I'm sure you're reliving those memories, bringing up those traumas, and also like realizing in ways that you've internalized certain things. So I'm wondering, what did the process look like of you trying to learn, like, from those experiences, or just like unearthing those things on top of having to write a book and having deadlines and having to reach a certain number of pages, things of that?
Yeah. So I will say that I wasn't working off deadlines at all. No. I'm always the type of person that I'm a get it done type of person. So much to the point where I can rush through things. And I believe that's what I did during my first version. And then I hired a book coach and editor. And so when I first wrote the story, it was 175 pages. Then I met my editor and book coach, and it turned into almost 370 pages. So he really pushed me to write a lot more, and me rushing through it was a part of why I wasn't as flushed out. But a lot of things when you start writing about yourself and you're digging back into the past, and the way my book is written, it's in numerical order. So it's from birth as I'm, getting older. So I'm having to dig and bring stories together. And, it was a very challenging process actually, because I'm not a writer.
Wow.
I'm not a writer.
Right,
And it was
right.
very challenging to bridge these stories together because the story is consecutive, and
Mm-hmm.
having to drum up memories. And oh man, now I remember that. And then having to realize that I wasn't maybe quite healed from certain things. And now
Mm-hmm.
having to readdress certain situations with relationships that I write about in the book. Um, and even, when you have going through this emotional journey, writing a story, and I'm feeling a lot of the same pain, some of these pain and things like these feelings again, it's
Mm-hmm.
constantly in your mind. So whether you reach out to them or not, the power of attraction is going to bring that person into your
Oh
experience.
yes.
And that has happened,
Oh
through this book.
wow.
People that I haven't, spoken to, and they are constantly on my mind. Now all of a
Yeah.
sudden they have come back into my life.
Wow.
Um, and realizing when you're writing a book like this, you also go back and you're writing about all these relationships. I write about all the relationships that were important to me or
Mm-hmm.
impactful, and you start seeing yourself in behaviors that you have in every relationship, and these patterns that now you're saying
Yeah.
like, that should happen when I was 20 dating, Susie. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And then that happened. I did the same thing when I was 28 and I was dating Robert, and that was even having such strong, impactful relationship with men and
Mm-hmm.
women in my book helped me to realize that I'm not just one thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I when I started, my feelings for men had been suppressed for so long. When
Yeah.
I did start seeing men, and it was new and exciting, and I just thought that I was, damn, I'm gay. All that
Mm-hmm.
time I was with women, this is what I really wanted, and da da da. But as I experience life and get older, now I'm having a 5, 6, 7, 8 year relationship with a man. I start discovering that I'm the same way in this relationship that I was in the relationship with the women. I wasn't. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that I wasn't sexually attracted to her, and it's not that I'm not
Right.
sexually attracted to my husband. Or you
Mm-hmm.
see the same, and it was just so eye opening for me, to do it. I always tell people, like, even if you release it or not, you should write a book about your life. Like, there's nothing that forces you to grow more than having to write about yourself truthfully.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you can write it down and don't tell the whole truth, play the victim thing. But, my thing is,
Mm-hmm.
I always try to see myself in every situation. And that's what this book is, seeing myself in every situation and
Yes.
making myself more self aware. And, so I don't have to experience the same things again.
Right. Right. Was there a moment of discovery throughout all that that's like your favorite moment, or maybe when you reconnected with someone from your past that like was like a highlight in this process?
Definitely, two things actually. Probably definitely my relationship with my mom,
Mm.
because she had to read the book, right? And so a lot of things that she wasn't aware of, or and maybe I thought I
Mm.
had conveyed to her, or and even things that I've never told her, certain memories that I still remember that I've never talked about, drummed up a lot of stuff for her too. So
Mm.
there was a lot of healing that her and I had to get through in order for this book to be released, because in telling my story, I'm also telling her story. She's a
Yeah.
very large she's a very large part of this book.
Mm-hmm.
Me battling my white side is really battling my mom. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that's
Definitely.
impacted her. That's impacted her for, if you just have to think that you have a child that is essentially rejecting the part of you
That
that's
you
him.
gave them.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
that was definitely huge. And I think that what was also probably pretty big for me is, my son also had to read the book. He's 19 years old. Um, and again, in telling my story, I'm having to tell his story as well. And so it was really just kind of good to get his perspective, and um, also learn how he grew through the journey as well. I
Right.
last night I've been having these weekly themed conversations
Mhm.
about different themes in my book, and I've been bringing
Mhm.
different characters on the show. And last night was one talking about fatherhood and what it was like being a same and loving man with a son, and what that experience was like for him. So that probably was the other, aside from my mom, the other thing that was kind of like a big deal.
Right, right. Wow. So let's see. In doing this like very tough work and like breaking generational curses, I wonder what negative aspects or negative, so to speak, did you have to face within yourself? Like what aspects of maybe internalized racism or internalized homophobia did you, uncover and realize when you were able to come face to face with who you are, just writing your life?
So I will say, um, the internalized. I'm actually just talking about the internalized homophobia. I believe probably before writing this book, I think I had arrived to a place where I didn't internalize. I didn't have that anymore. You know,
Mm,
I think that we all, if you grow up hiding parts of yourself, for a large part of your life and living in shame, um, even when you do accept that part of yourself, there's still a whole lot of unraveling to do, behavior changes and impulses that you may have had. I know I used to be, when I was first coming out, even, I
mhm,
wasn't as comfortable around extremely feminine men, you know.
mm,
And that was just internalized homophobia. That was just something that I
yeah,
was rejecting within myself, and
yeah,
trying to push it away. Um, so I believe that I have kind of, I grew past that um, before writing the book. I
mhm,
still think that there's probably situations where I can catch myself,
yeah,
even if it's me not wanting to do something that might look too feminine. Like, oh my God, that was really, that was kind of
mhm,
feminine. That's internalized homophobia. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so I have to check
yeah,
myself, just because that's what I would naturally, or how I naturally carry myself, especially if I'm in an extremely hetero environment, a hyper
mhm,
masculine environment.
yeah,
It's kind of like code switching. You know what I'm
yep,
saying?
definitely,
It's like code switching, which is just the insecurity. It's the phobia, if
mhm,
you will. But with the definitely, I did not realize how much I rejected the white part of myself until I was writing this book.
mm,
I didn't, I didn't, I had no idea how much I was rejecting that part of me, and in turn rejecting myself, until I really got into this book. And I've been in therapy since I was married to my wife in my 20s. And so that was also, I was talking about the book and talking about the journey with my therapist during this time. And, she helped me realize too, like, I'm just rejecting this whole side of myself. So
mm,
that was definitely the uh, the hardest part to realize. And like, still, I'm still trying to figure that out. And
yeah,
now I recognize it, which is good. That's like the biggest part of, I think, growth, is recognizing the problem, and then it's uphill from there. You know what I
right,
mean? It's just being conscious of that. Um, so yeah, because I don't really know, what does it mean to connect with my white side? What is that as a
mhm,
black man? Because at the end of the day, I'm a black man. I don't
right,
know what it means to connect to. I don't know what that means. So for me, it's just about being conscious of the
right,
insecurity, and loving that part of myself, whatever and
exactly.
however to do that. I'm just loving and embracing that part of me.
Right, right. Yeah, it's one thing to name it, and like just because you're aware of that insecurity or whatever it was doesn't mean you're totally removed from it.
Yeah, no, that's a work in progress. That's a work in progress, especially with something that, if I've been rejecting my white side for 40 years, and now I'm not. I mean, does that mean that the next day is going to be just easy? No, you're probably going to take 40 more years of unraveling. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? It's
right.
work. That's work, and that's a lot of times that's the work that people don't want to do. So they just settle within themselves, and settle. And I've never been that kind of person to just be okay with insecurity.
Right, right. So what would you say or what would you predict or what are you open to being, I guess, the next step? Like, do you see another book being written? Do you see like what do you see coming of this?
So, um, there will be more books. There's a lot that I did not share in this book because there's a lot of themes that run through the book from my sexuality to my race to spirituality to fatherhood. All of those different themes kind of can be a book within themselves. So I
Mm-hmm.
know that I want to write more about my relationship and what I've learned through my relationship because I did touch on some stuff from a high
Yeah.
level, but I really want to be able to dig into that and tell more stories and how we've arrived to certain places within our relationship. I also think that there's something that's needed about writing about fatherhood
Right.
that can be very impactful. And I do want this to turn into a movie.
Mm. Yes.
Yeah, I
Big,
do want to
big
turn into a
steps.
movie. I think, like I said, I think it's a book that everybody can learn from. So I
Mm-hmm.
expected my expectations of it is to be on the largest platforms. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like that's where it's going to go.
Yes.
That's where it's
And
going to
just
go.
like,
Yeah.
right, right. So I really like the having to, look through the first few pages. I really like the chapter titles. I think some of them are kind of
Mm.
clever, some of them a little humorous. What would you call where you are right now? If you could think of a clever chapter title, what is the chapter of your life
Oh,
right now?
um, living in the vortex. Uh,
Mm,
and people who are not familiar with what I mean by vortex, I, as you can probably tell through the interview, I'm very strong believer in the power of attraction. I'm a strong believer in energy and in attracting our experiences. Um, and the way for the power of attraction to work is that you have to constantly be in a state of feeling that joy that comes along with attracting certain things into your life. And so to
mm,
constantly stay in that state of joy would be living in the vortex. And so when you're
wow.
living in the vortex, you can attract whatever you want just like
Mm-hmm.
that. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
for me, this part of my life is about me maintaining my space in the vortex because that's always been something that's been extremely challenging for me was to like just stay in the vortex.
Mm-hmm.
I can deal with anxiety sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
a guilt, a lot of guilt,
Right.
and you can't be in the vortex if you carry along those things. So I'm like this book has freed me so much.
Mm,
It's like it's out there now, and I just feel like I can. There's no hiding who I am and who all facets of myself. There's no hiding who I am, and
right.
there's nothing to be ashamed of. So it's easy for me to stay in the state of joy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what do you think people will gain from this? Like what is the gift you're giving to the world with this book?
Um, Sometimes it's hard for me to say this word,
Mhm.
but I'm thinking I'm giving. I think I'm giving the gift of authenticity.
Mm,
Um, if I can be who I am and know that I am enough, then I feel like who's ever reading this book can walk away and feel like they can also be authentic with who they are and know that they are enough and free themselves. Because I feel like that's what life is all about. Becoming more self-aware so you could be more authentic um, and just being free, So I'm hoping that my story inspires people to be free.
wow. Wow, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's perfect. To be free. So I
Yeah, to
have
be free.
one more, maybe two more questions. Well, one in
Okay.
particular, I'm very curious. Please tell us about your restaurant in Georgia, especially the influence from the Gullah Geechee culture.
Yeah, so it's the restaurant is called Virgil's Gullah Kitchen and Bar, and it's down in historic College Park. It's named after my father. He passed away maybe 3 months before I met my husband, and since
Mm,
then he has just been a guiding light for the both of us from meeting into the nurturing of our relationships and to all the work that we've done. So this is like a
mm,
love letter to my father. Um, but the culture, as I spoke about a little earlier, Gullah Geechee culture is the first Black culture in America, and it's most of us are in Charleston or Savannah. but we're in that northern coastline of North Carolina to the southern coastline of North Carolina to the northern coastline of Georgia. And it's a
Mhm.
West African inspired culture. Our ancestors were brought over to grow rice in the marshlands because they were the only ones who knew how to do it. So they were brought over for that skill. And so with that comes a lot of rice in our culture. We eat rice like every day. So you come to the restaurant and find a lot of rice dishes on there.
Mhm.
Um, Also, there was a large period of time where the land was left to our ancestors because of a drought. So with that, they were able to preserve a lot of the language. And so you'll find that we speak differently. A lot of us, when I first moved down here, and I'm having this professional interview right now, so this is my
Mhm.
professional voice.
Mhm.
But you know, when I first moved down here, people would always ask about. People thought I was from Jamaica or Bahamas, but you know, it's a Creole culture, so it's a lot like what you
Mm,
hear in New Orleans. We also eat
mhm.
a lot of seafood because we're from the water and we always eat fresh. And also, it's where soul food was born. It's the first very much soul
Right,
food. So it's at the end of the day,
right.
it's soul food.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
So, I guess we can wrap up. This was really quick. You gave me so much. Thank you so much for having this.
Good.
I do have one more question, which I'm sure you express throughout a lot of your work. But if you could briefly describe your partnership with your husband, who's very much a business partner, and what that's like and how that's ever growing, I would love to hear about that.
So my husband is he's so many things to me, but and at the end of the day, we are life partners, and we're committed to each other. And he is the person that knows me the best,
Mm,
um, and loves me through it all. You know, and it's we allow each other such space to grow and to discover who we are. We
mhm,
understand that we don't own each other. He's not
mhm,
here to follow my rules to make me happy, and vice versa. So we give each other that space to just be who we are, and in our on our individual journeys and our journey together. And a part of that journey has been the work that we've done throughout the community and our restaurant being so sharing of our relationship. Um, yeah, I just believe that we're meant for each other for one. Like there's never a doubt that I feel like he's not ever going to be here. You know, I don't
mm,
ever think that he's not going to be here. I don't care what we're going through. If the romantic part of the relationship is not as great, you know, this week as it was 2 weeks ago, then I never get to a space of he's not going to be here. Because I like this book, like most of the work that we've done, that I've done, it just feels so destined.
mm.
Um, yeah, it's so unexplainable for me. It's just really destiny, and I always feel that way, especially because I've never set out or planned to marry a man
Mhm.
ever. The way we got married, you will find out in the book, was not because we fell in love and now the next step is to propose. Like that's not our marriage story. We got married over 10 years ago now, so we people didn't really get married back then. But that's not the story of how
Mhm.
we got married. So that was never planned, you know. And
Right.
so, but you know, it just feels like we are right where we're supposed to be, you know.
Wow.
So I mean, I'm just like extremely blessed to be able to have a partner like I do in one.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for sharing that. So,
you're
do you
welcome.
have any last words, any closing remarks about the book and anything you'd like to say? Also, please let us know where we can purchase and read your book.
Yeah, no, I think that I said a lot. You've asked a lot. I think you asked some really great questions. It's been a great interview, so I
Right.
appreciate um, the genuineness and the genuine interest. You know, you could do a lot of interviews sometimes, and it's just you could tell they're going through the process.
Hmm.
But I appreciate the experience with you. But so I feel like I've said a lot, but people can get the book on my website, gsmalls.com, and that's GEESMALLS. You can also get it on Amazon, Kindle, Apple Books, Target.com, and they can follow me at G Smalls.
All right, perfect. So I am
Yeah.
Kiara Armony, staff writer with Soul LGBTQ. And thank you so much, G. Again, y'all, buy his book.
Please.
gsmalls.com, soul.lgbt. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for sitting
Thank
with me.
you.